My name's Linda Squires. I'm going to talk about my journey to kindness and how a kid from Toledo, Ohio grows up to become a successful non-force chiropractor of a multidisciplinary center in Boston, Massachusetts. I did this by listening to my family's history, reading road signs, getting green lights, and even ending up in accidents, which helped me end up journeying to kindness here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My great-grandmother Swan was born in the 1800s. She married my great-grandfather and had my grandmother. When my great-grandfather got very sick, my great-grandmother took him to the medical doctors. My great-grandfather died, and my great-grandmother decided that the medical doctors had killed him. She swore to never go to a medical doctor again. When I remember my great-grandmother Swan, I remember people calling her a health nut. Can you imagine? She would go on grapefruit diets and ended up living until she was 95. I would walk with her, and she would swing her cane around and say, "Woo!" I was embarrassed as a child to witness this. However, if anyone looked at her funny, I would say, "What are you looking at?" I'm telling you this story because it put me on the road to being a chiropractor. My mother's family history greatly influenced and inspired me. I feel that I took what I wanted from my history and left the rest. This bottom picture in the slide is of all the generations with my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother. And I'm baby Linda. My grandmother raised my mother without medicine. My mother grew up going to chiropractors and other types of healing in those days. Then my mother decided she wanted to be an airline stewardess, or now it's called flight attendant. In the early 1940s, you had to get a nursing degree to become an airline stewardess. So at 18, my mother applied to nursing school and had her first physical. The doctors told her she needed a tonsillectomy, so she had one. I think it was a common surgery done on a lot of people in those times, but my mother had no ill regards about it. My mother went to nursing school, but could not stop her constant worrying over her patients. She met my father, dropped out of nursing school, and got married. I was taken to doctors growing up. I was sick a lot and hated the shots. My first doctor was a very kind man. He went on to become the director of the student health care at my undergraduate college and also studied acupuncture. As a child, I was unaware that there was anything different. Then my mother's feet started to hurt her, and she went to our new doctor. He felt she should have surgery on her feet, and she should have a hysterectomy. That was when she decided to go to a chiropractor instead. I'm grateful to this doctor because it inspired my mother to start going back to chiropractors. Later, this doctor would talk to my father, who was very depressed over his brother's death. He would give him kind words, which helped my dad to come out of his depression and start living life again. I took what I wanted from these events and left the rest. I became interested in yoga in 1972. I found a really cool book about it in our public library and started practicing. I went to college and found a yoga class to go to. I also discovered in our college student bookstore, Our Bodies, Ourselves. To those of you who do not know what this book was, it was a revolution. It was the first book to give health information to the layperson. It was about women's health, and it was empowering. It was written by a group of women in Boston who wanted to know what was going on with their bodies when they went to the doctor. So they decided to write and publish this book. This book started me on the road to health. I became a health practitioner because of this book. I started reading more and more information on health. My sophomore year of college, I had to stay up all night to type a paper due the next day. With the help of NoDoz, okay, I wasn't all that healthy yet, I was able to get my paper done. I had some time before class, so I decided to do yoga. I ended up in low back pain. Whether it was the NoDoz or the fact that I had been in one position for hours and tried to stretch something that wasn't ready to stretch yet, I could not walk upright when first getting out of a chair. Anybody experience that? I went to the chiropractor in my college town, crunch, crunch, and I was upright again. Amazing. The fact that I went in, bent over, and came out upright was a miracle. I loved it. My sophomore year, I decided to become a vegetarian. I would have lunch consisting of a cheese spread on white bread and a brownie for dessert. I would then go to class and could not stay awake. My notes would show how I would get drowsy and my writing would get worse and worse. After class, I would seem okay. I asked my chiropractor what he thought it was, and he said hypoglycemia, and gave me a diet sheet for hypoglycemia. No breads, pastas, crackers, potatoes, desserts were allowed. Meats, vegetables, and some fruits were encouraged. I would start eating this way and felt better. When I talked to a nurse practitioner about my hypoglycemia, she said that it would mean I would become diabetic. I remember thinking to myself, that's not going to happen. And it never did. I'm not even hypoglycemic anymore. Pretty soon, my friends would start talking to me and asking me questions about their health. I became the person who knew the most about it. I graduated and started working with developmentally delayed people at a center, and then later at a workshop. During those years, I matured emotionally through therapy. I went to the Michigan Women's Music Festival in 1977. It was there I saw the future for healthcare. The healthcare for this festival was a holistic health model. You went up to the registration, you told them what your problem was. The woman would then ask you if you wanted to see a doctor nurse, an herbalist, an acupuncturist, or a chiropractor. I was blown away, and I put some volunteer hours into being a registration person myself for it. It was 1977, and it was free, and all the people working there were volunteering. Fantastic. Every year I went, I continued to be inspired by this model for health. I also met a woman chiropractor from St. Louis who went to Logan Chiropractic College. She was even smaller than I was, so I thought, if she can do it, so can I. In 1982, I went to Logan Chiropractic College in the suburbs of St. Louis, Missouri. Dr. Logan developed a non-force chiropractic technique called Logan Basic. He had to stop working as a chiropractor and would see all the different chiropractors to get help. Nothing seemed to help his back pain. So he started researching and came up with this gentler technique. As a result, he started a chiropractic college in 1935. This is the first technique we were taught and allowed to practice on each other, and then on underclassmates. Out of a class of 125, there were 16 women. My fellow classmates were speculating on how much money could they make. I was speculating on whether I could make people feel better. I totally understood how to apply Logan Basic while working on a patient's back. It was about feeling a connection. When I played softball and was the catcher, I would visualize the pitcher's ball coming right into my mitt. This didn't seem that much different. The fellow students were not getting good results and talking with frustration about when we would be learning the real chiropractic techniques. All I know is that I could make people feel better and be out of pain. My road ahead to become a chiropractor seemed clear. Of all the chiropractic techniques, dynamic non-force technique was made fun of by the other students. Here is its premise. The patient is lying down. The chiropractor is standing at the patient's feet. The chiropractor asks questions in her mind about the patient's spine and then uses one of the Achilles tendon of the patient's feet as a muscle test. Muscle testing is taking a strong muscle of a person's body, like his arm, and during a chiropractic session, the practitioner will push on a bony joint in different directions to see if the person's arm goes weak or stays strong. If I push on a collarbone in an inferior position and the patient's arm goes weak, then I know the collarbone is out of place. If I push the collarbone in a superior, lateral, medial position and the arm stays strong, then I know I need to adjust the collarbone in a superior direction to counteract the inferior displacement of the collarbone. I would then muscle test after the adjustment to see if pushing on the collarbone in all directions makes the arm stay strong. This can be called body as indicator. However, using Achilles tendons and asking questions in your mind about your patient's spine is a leap. I thought it was interesting, but didn't give it much thought. I was busy learning other techniques and studying for tests. After graduating, I decided to move to Boston. I went on vacation in Boston before going to chiropractic college. To me, Boston seemed like the center of the universe. It was where the book collective for Our Bodies Ourselves started. It had history, culture, the ocean, mass transportation. It called to me. I felt like I was home. After meeting Colleen, who would later become my spouse, and passing the boards, I interviewed in 1987 with chiropractors in the area who were looking for an associate. With great excitement, I interviewed with Vivian Purge, DC, who with two other women, a PT and an acupuncturist, started the Health Alliance in Cambridge, Massachusetts. There was an MD, acupuncture, massage, counseling, Feldenkrais, craniosacral therapy, physical therapy, and chiropractic. The chiropractic technique that Dr. Purge did was, of course, you guessed it, dynamic non-force technique. I was hired, taught the technique, and took off. Here was my dream come true of a holistic health center with all the different healing methods. I stayed 6.5 years. I learned a ton and also got treated with the different techniques offered. I also got to work on some of the Boston Women's Health Book Collective who wrote Our Bodies Ourselves. It was a dream come true. I also started to become interested in Ayurveda and began seeing a local Ayurveda practitioner. Ayurveda is a healing system which has been in existence for more than 5,000 years. I quit yoga after I hurt my back at undergraduate college. Now as a chiropractor, I started to attend Iyengar yoga classes at the encouragement of a patient. I remember attending the first class and thinking, why did I stop doing yoga? And then remembered I had stopped after hurting my back, became a chiropractor, and now here I was back doing yoga. What a full circle that was. Ayurveda talks about 3 different constitutions of or dosha that a person can be or can have a combination of. My body has all 3 doshas. I am half vata, which is made up of the elements ether and air. I am some pitta, which is a fire element, and a little kapha, which is earth and water elements. What helped me the most as a chiropractor was understanding that these doshas meant that a person's body would respond to chiropractic adjustments differently. For example, a mostly Vata dosha person could be adjusted into alignment easily and go out of place easily. A mostly Kapha dosha person could be a challenge to get into alignment, but once in place, they were good. Each of the doshas have their pros and cons. While our society worships thin people and is critical of heavy people, in Ayurveda, the person has pros and cons no matter what their dosha is. The challenge is to know what your dosha is and take care of it by your daily habits and foods that you eat. In 1992, I opened my own practice across the river in the Boston area. I started out with 3 rooms and an office. It was a dream come true. I had my own practice and felt empowered and in charge of my own work and life. Finally. I soon found myself, however, being so exhausted that I felt depressed. I wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. I wanted to quit. My perceptions were that people were doing terrible things and that we were destroying the earth. I was raised in the Unity Church, which is a Christian faith that practices positive affirmations and thinking. My grandmother raised my mother in this faith, and then I was raised in it as well. It is a loving faith and is liberal in its theology. Our Bible would have the words underlined, God is love. The irony was that my grandparents were very racist and prejudiced against other religions, yet went to this church. When I asked my mother why she didn't feel the way her parents did, she said that my father would show her other people suffering, and she developed compassion. She continues to practice the Unity religion and left the other things she learned behind. I am grateful. As I faced my exhaustion depression, I remember saying to myself, you are not a quitter. So I decided to act as if everything would turn out all right. My chiropractic friend Jean talked to me about zero balancing. She actually showed me a class called The Alchemy of Touch, and we both agreed it sounded fascinating. But in order to take the class, we had to learn zero balancing. This slide shows a picture of Dr. Fritz Smith and I celebrating my graduation of becoming a certified zero balancing practitioner. Developed by Fritz Smith, MD, in the early 1970s, zero balancing is a powerful mind-body therapy that uses skilled touch to address the relationship between energy and structures of the body. Following a protocol that typically lasts 30 to 45 minutes, the practitioner uses finger pressure and gentle traction on areas of tension in the bones, joints, and soft tissues to create fulcrums, or points of balance, around which the body can relax and reorganize. Zero balancing focuses primarily on key joints of our skeleton that conduct and balance forces of gravity, posture, and movement. By addressing the deepest and densest tissues of the body along with the soft tissue and energy fields, zero balancing helps to clear blocks in the body's energy flow, amplify vitality, and contribute to a better postural alignment. A zero balancing session leaves you with a wonderful feeling of inner harmony and organization. The first day of class changed my life. We were introduced to the idea that when touching people, you could stream or blend your energy with the patient's energy. Unbeknownst to me, I had been streaming my energy into all my patients. While touching and interacting with people, the optimum place to be is at interface. Imagine being at a party. Somebody comes up to talk to you. You start feeling drained. This is when being at interface would be helpful. For me, Having awareness of my body's boundaries and keeping my energy within those boundaries is being at interface. I wasn't keeping my energy within my body. I wasn't aware of my body's boundary, and as a result, would lose energy or take on someone else's energy. This was why I was so tired. The rest of the class was fantastic, and I have made zero balancing part of my treatment ever since. I was able to keep on practicing. My patients loved the new addition, and I got lots of referrals. I needed another chiropractor to learn these techniques and see all of my new patients. Soon a chiropractor who was in acupuncture school and a massage therapist joined me, and my 3-room office was overflowing. In 1999, I moved back across the Charles River and opened an 8-treatment room center and a classroom space. It was named the Amethyst Center. The Amethyst Center offered chiropractic, acupuncture, physical therapy, craniosacral therapy, massage therapy, naturopathy, and energy therapy. After learning zero balancing, I became very interested in energy. A friend of Colleen and mine began to do energy work at Amethyst Chiropractic and was now a teacher in a self-energy technique called Awakening Your Light Body. I took the class and went on to become a flow alignment and connection energy therapist. So I was now doing non-force chiropractic, zero balancing, and energy work. I exercised 3 times a week, meditated, and did yoga. I ate mostly organic meats, plants, and I had a no-sugar diet. I was loving what I was doing, but the responsibility I took on with the Amethyst Center and its practitioners were too much. I was exhausted. In the summer of 2010, I was diagnosed with stage 0 and stage 1 breast cancer. I was fortunate it was stage 0 on my left breast and stage 1 on my right breast. My lymph nodes were clear, and so I just had lumpectomies. The good news is that I didn't need chemotherapy, but I did have radiation on both breasts. Meanwhile, Colleen and I, in our 18th year together, got legally married in 2004 in Massachusetts. Colleen, who was the administrative assistant to a world-renowned doctor at Massachusetts General Hospital, felt called to become a minister in the Unitarian Universalist denomination. She started seminary in 2005 and went part-time. I want everybody to know that I couldn't have achieved everything I did without Colleen. She was my silent partner in Amethyst Chiropractic and Amethyst Center. If you have a spouse who is also your best friend, they will help you both achieve your dreams and not mess up. I wanted Colleen to truly love what she did for work like I did. I remember sitting at dinner parties and being the only one at the table who truly loved her work. After 19 years, it was her time to pursue something she loved. Now, I was angry that I got breast cancer. I thought I was doing everything right and got cancer. In July 2010, I got diagnosed, and in August had surgery. At this time, I want you to know that everywhere I went, I saw dragonflies. One morning, I went to the neighborhood park to walk my dog show. I was walking around in shock from what I was going through. When I got to the park, which had no water, there were hundreds of dragonflies. I couldn't believe it. It was sunny and hot. It was a park of grass and trees. And there were all these dragonflies where none should be. One day, walking to my radiation treatment, sick with despair, I looked down and there was a dragonfly pin on the ground. I picked it up and decided that dragonflies were my guides through this time. They would represent my transformation. This is the pin. I went through life in 2010 and 2011 healing, yet traumatized. At the same time, it became more and more clear that Colleen wasn't going to be a hospital chaplain, which had meant we could stay in Boston. It looked more and more like she wanted to become a minister of a church. Unitarian Universalist minister positions are highly competitive, and it looked more and more likely that we would have to move. Colleen was doing an internship at a church while I was going through radiation. I would go when she would be in the pulpit to support her. One Sunday, she did a sermon on change. During the sermon, I found myself hovering up above my body. I found myself up and in all this light and love. I no longer felt any despair, betrayal, depression, and anger. I thought, this is how it really is. I was up in that place because of what Colleen was saying, and I thought, I can't hold her back from who and where she truly needs to be. Afterwards, I told Colleen that I was willing to move from Boston and to help her find the right congregation. We moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan in July 2012. We bought the first house we looked at because it was the house we had dreamed of. We moved in and Colleen became the minister in August 2012 of All Souls Community Church of West Michigan. I got to take 18 months off from working. I was still in shock, still angry, still exhausted, yet knew this was the right move. You see, Grand Rapids, Michigan is a much kinder place than Boston. The people are warmer, friendlier. The traffic is much less. The customer service is great, and the neighbors are so helpful. We felt lucky to be in a great city with such kindness. Roger, who was on Colleen's search committee to bring her here, had a monthly plant-based potluck suppers at his house. Plant-based meals means food without animal products. It means vegan. Now, I loved food, nutrition, and cooking, so I was invited to come and bring a plant-based meal. Roger's wife, Sue, taught non-dairy cheese-making classes, so I attended one. When people introduced themselves at this class, they would say why they were there. Many mentioned the film Forks Over Knives. Forks Over Knives is a film based on the book, The China Study. The China Study is a report on the study of 2 villages in each of the 65 counties of China, which was done in the early 1980s. The study shows that people who ate plant-based and did not eat animal products had a low correlation of getting cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and other diseases. After seeing the movie and reading the book, I felt like it would be the right diet for me. I have been a vegan for 3 years now. I've been cancer-free for over 5 years now, and I feel great. I was ready to start practicing again and started to look around for a great holistic group to practice with. I met Dr. Dave Johnson, who is actually the next speaker today, at the monthly suppers, and he suggested a holistic care approach. I met Barb Baconis, owner of Holistic Care, and it seemed like a great place with some talented practitioners. I've been at Holistic Care Approach for 2 years now, practicing 3 days a week. I don't know if it has come across yet, but I can be hard on myself. I wanted to do my work differently with a kinder, gentler approach. I signed up and went to Universal Solutions Conference named Medicine Without Medication here in Grand Rapids in 2014. You could take mini workshops on different health approaches. I chose HeartMath. HeartMath teaches ways to help stop your mind and your body's reaction to stress. It involves breathing slowly and deeply with attention to the area of your heart while having feelings of appreciation and care. I've been practicing this approach consistently since last summer, and I have to report it's been very helpful. One of my patients mentioned to me about a book by Robert Moss. It is called The Three Only Things. Robert Moss talks about dreaming and how to use dreaming as a way to open personal paths to creativity and healing. How to find and live life's bigger story. So I got his book and started to set an intent before going to sleep about how to have the most fun and creative, successful work. I dreamed I was outside near woods and water. It was beautiful. 2 women came to me and asked how they could fundraise money to make their dreams come true. I suggested that they open camps for women, for people to attend to fundraise and make their dreams come true. When they asked me, could they really do this? I became very animated like a cheerleader, and I said, yes, of course you are. Of course you can, you are awesome. And so they left to do it. Upon wakening, I didn't know what it meant. A friend asked me, after telling her my dream, if I was a cheerleader for myself like I am for others. I started sobbing. I felt so much grief. I don't express encouragement and kindness towards myself like that. No wonder I feel so much grief. My inner dialogue is not one of kindness. Can anyone here relate to that? We're so kind to others. We're so encouraging of others, but where is that for ourselves? So I am now slowly changing to a life of kindness. I use the HeartMath breathing to de-stress and get positive. I use the positive affirmations to support myself. I only work 3 days. I meditate, do yoga, and work out. I eat the way I think best for myself. Slowly, my inner dialogue is changing. I'm more aware of when I am hard on myself. I try now to get myself to ask for help from everyone and everything. I hope that you can find something in this journey to inspire you too. I've put a bracelet in your tote bags which has Breathe in Kindness on them. I hope some of you will use it to remember to be kind to yourself. Thank you.